These photographs. Is there any objection? There is objection. Question number 5, Dr. Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Corrections. What progress has been made on the proposal to build a public-private prison at Wiri?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr. Speaker, today the Minister of Finance and I announced that the government has chosen a consortium of companies to design, finance, build, operate and maintain the new 960-bed prison at Wiri. Construction will start in the second half of this year once the 25-year contract has been finalised. The prison is expected to open in 2015. The new prison at Wiri will help meet growing demand for prisoner accommodation in Auckland. The new prison will not only get better results, but it's also excellent value for the taxpayers.
Dr. Calder.
What are the advantages of using a PPP to build and operate the prison at Wiri?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr. Speaker, this is a great deal for the taxpayers because the maximum cost of the contract is capped at a level equivalent to 10% less than procuring the prison through traditional means. And the contract with the provider will have strong performance incentives, ensuring we receive a superior service to that provided by publicly run prisons, or we pay a lower price. The provider will need to achieve lower recidivism rates than the average for publicly run prisons to receive incentive payments. It will also face financial penalties if it fails to meet short-term rehabilitation and reintegration measures.
Hone Harawira.
To the Minister, what reports has she seen regarding the increased recidivism rates amongst Native Americans in public-private prisons in the United States? And can she tell the House what support the Māori Party has given for public-private prisons like the one at Wiri that are expected to follow the same trends?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in answer to the first part of that, no. But I would dispute the member's assertion. Actually, this contract that we are talking about today will take a fundamentally different approach. It is strongly focused on results and particularly focused on results for Māori offenders, and we are requiring the contractor to provide better results than the state system. This approach of incentivising a contractor to focus on results is beyond the immediate scope of the service. Like recidivism, this is an international first.
Charles Chauvel. Order, I've called Charles Chauvel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, what are the locations around New Zealand of the existing state-owned prison units that she described today as, quote, very old and coming to the end of their viable life, and that, quote, will need to close, end quote?
The Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr. Speaker, no prisons will need to close as a direct result of the decision announced today. However, it is well known that some of our prisons are very old. Some of them were built in the 19th century and are coming to the end of their useful life. I'm not going to give specific locations. However...
Order. Point of order, Charles Chauvel.
Mr. Speaker, I asked a very direct question. I asked the Minister not about which prisons we're going to close, but which existing state-owned and run prison units that she described today as very old and coming to the end of their viable life and will need to close. And I don't think the Minister's in a position to refuse to give that information.
I accept the member's point. That was indeed the question he asked. Now, the Minister should either answer it or declare it's not in the public interest to do so, but there was a very straight question. Point of order, the Honourable Cherry Brown.
Mr. Speaker.
Order. The point of order has been raised.
Mr. Speaker, I think when a minister stands up and attempts to give some context to the questioner's question, in other words, not dismissing it, but accepting it as a valid question, but then goes on to say, I am not going to release that today, it's reasonable to assume that there is a good public interest requirement by being met in not answering that question.
Well, if the Minister
directly.
Well, I don't think I need to hear more anymore. If the Minister is indicating that she believes it's not in the public interest to answer that question, that is the end of the matter.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if I had been allowed to finish, I would say that we are obliged to carry out consultations with staff, and I do not wish to preempt that. And I did say today publicly that an announcement would be made soon.
Thank the Minister. Point of order, Charles Chevelle.
With respect, that still doesn't address the question. It was phrased deliberately and directly and independently of any need to consult with the staff, because the Minister's statement, which I'll seek leave to table, identifies the clear fact that there are units that need to
Order. Now, the members heard the Minister's full answer there, and I think that has to be accepted. The Minister is saying that, in her opinion, it is not in the public interest to name any such units prior to consultation with those involved in either the operation or staffing of those units. That is a perfectly proper answer, or reasonable answer. The member can then seek leave to table documents. That is a perfectly reasonable answer. Question number 6, the Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.